welcome. In this video, we start our expedition into AEONS in OUTCASTS. So for our introduction for Battle 1, we have gathered peacefully and just are chatting when there's a loud shout. We run to the top of the hill to find out there's a nemesis that needs to be fought. And this nemesis is Experiment 153. So for our flavor text down there, if you want to take a look, setup is placing our growth mat next to this mat, and this is our growth mat, or our big old bunny ears. Place the 4 mall tokens on the 4 starting spaces on the growth mat. So each of these tokens will find a home on those starting places. Then we are instructed to move 2 tokens 1 space forward. We'll just start working out on the edges. And he does not have a life dial. Instead, we're giving each mall 20 life. So we've got 4 malls spreading off. Each is going to have 20 health. So 80 damage, and we will succeed. For abilities, unleashing, move any mall token 2 spaces forward toward the end of its track. The additional rules: when you move a mall token forward onto a space with an effect, resolve that effect. If a mall token starts to move forward any number of spaces while it's at the end of its track, instead resolve the effect of the space that it's currently on. When a player would deal damage to Experiment 153, that player deals all of that damage to a single mall instead. When a player deals 3 or more damage with 1 instance to a mall, move that mall token back 1 space. And when a mall token is on the 1st or 4th space of a track, it cannot be moved further back. So it can't go less than this spot. And once we pass this larger arrow, we can no longer bounce back. And each of these has a different effect. So Gravehold suffers 2 damage. Any player suffers 2, and continuing on. Any player suffers 4 damage, and Gravehold suffers 3 damage. Then Gravehold suffers 4 damage, and Gravehold suffers 7. Any player suffers 4 damage, and any player suffers 6. So once it gets past a certain point, it's just going to bounce back and forth between those. Here, all players collectively discard 4 cards in hand, and the players collectively discard 8 cards in hand. Unless we're playing solo, then we'll just stop at 5. So when a mall is reduced to 0 life, discard that token and move another token back 2 spaces. And the players win when the growth mat has no mall tokens on it. The setup guide has us putting our cursed cards out. And then with our Nemesis deck, I'll be playing solo. So if we're playing with just 1 player, we are going to discard the top 7 cards of that deck. So we've got our curses out. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 cards removed. And then for our supply, we have some gems here. Molten Peridot, gain 2 ether. This is the second time you played Molten Peridot this turn. You may destroy this. If you do, gain a card that costs 4 ether less from any supply pile. Then we have Petrified Phoenixium. Gain 2 ether. The next time you gain a card this turn, you may cast any player's prep spell. Duplicating Sazite. Gain 3 ether. Next time you gain a card this turn, you may discard a prep spell that costs 1 or more. If you do, any ally gains a card from the supply that costs less than or equal to the card you gained. Pretty neat artwork in there. The Destiny Forger. Any ally may destroy a card in hand. That player may gain a card that costs up to 2 ether more than the destroyed card and place it into their hand, or destroy this to gain 2 charges. Transmuter's Lens. Destroy this. You may destroy a card in your hand or discard pile. Gain a card that costs up to 6 ether from any supply pile. Fortified Frost. Cast, deal 2 damage. You may discard a card in hand. If you do, deal 1 additional damage. Twisted Fang. Cast, deal 3 damage. This card supply pile is empty. Deal 1 additional damage. A lightning arrow, cast, deal 3 damage. You may discard a card in hand. If you do, Gravehold gains 1 life. And Tornado of Insight, cast, deal 5 damage. If you have no closed breaches, gain 1 charge. And then we have 4 breach mages that start in our barracks. We have Kel and her story. So her ability is, during your main phase, return up to 2 gems or relics you played this turn to your hand. Any ally draws a card and may prep a spell and hand to an opened or closed breach. For Ilya, Life's Embrace. Cast all of your prep spells without discarding them. Any ally returns a card in their discard pile to their hand. TAQREN, he's got some special text here. On the left side of the front of this mat, there's a barrier track. Place the barrier token on ally draws a card of the barrier track. When he suffers damage or is exhausted and would suffer damage, move the token to a different space on the barrier track and resolve the listed effect. While exhausted, Gravehold suffers 1 damage per 1 damage he suffers instead of 2. That's a pretty nice ability. And the others are, we've got the one where it starts, any ally draws a card. Focus your closed breach with the lowest focus cost. Gain a charge, prep a spell in hand to one of your opened or closed breaches. And sustained, if you are not exhausted, gain 3 life. Otherwise, Gravehold gains 3 life. And lastly, Zahana. So her text, set all the glyph tokens next to this mat. When an ally gains a card with a glyph token on it, that ally or Zana resolves that token's effect. Then that token is returned to her. When she gains a card with a glyph token on it, place that glyph token on any card in the supply unless you are playing with 1 mage. When a card with 1 or more glyph tokens is removed from the supply, return those glyph tokens to Zahana. So her ability, activate during any player's main phase, Gravehold gains 5 life, and place 2 glyph tokens on top of any card in the supply. And those glyph tokens gain a charge. You may cast one of your prep spells. Focus your closed breach with the lowest cost. May cast one of your prep spells again and gain a card that costs 3 ether or less from any pile. So of those, this is the one I'll be playing for this. So we've got 3 crystals, an esoteric amplifier and a spark, and 3 crystals and 2 sparks. We've got our token there. Of course, all our crystals gain an ether, sparks deal 1 damage, and then our special, gain 1 ether. You may suffer 1 damage. So everything's just about set up. Got our mage set up with 10 health, and I'm playing solo, so I'm going to be player 1 and 2. We have our breaches set up, how they're supposed to be laid out. It does show that this is typically in a 3x3 grid, but just for space, I've got them all laid up there. It typically doesn't matter, although there are some Nemesis effects where you do have to make the 3x3 grid. Experiment 153 setup, and I use different tokens. So there's nothing wrong with the tokens provided. I've just been playing this game for a while, and I like using dice and using these little things for other tokens. Then for our turn order deck, we're going to have 2 Nemesis and then 4 cards for myself. So we'll go ahead and get these randomized and get this game started. So our starting hand, according to this, is 3 crystals, our amplifier, and a spark. And then we have our starting deck, 3 crystals and 2 sparks. So first off is going to be the Nemesis. So on the Nemesis turn, main phase from oldest to newest, resolve effects, but there's none out there. So then we will draw a card, and depending on what it is, something different will happen. So we're getting a minion. So a Moonstruck Hound is going to have 5 health. Reduce to 1 all damage dealt to this minion by spells that cost 5 or more. So we definitely want to attack him with spells that cost 4 or less, which isn't going to be a problem starting off. And his persistent effect, Gravehold suffers 2 damage. So we've done the main phase, draw phase, and then it just goes over when exhausted, and hopefully that doesn't happen for quite a while. So next turn, Nemesis again. So Gravehold suffers 2 damage. Go from 30 to 28. Draw another card. Cascading Casualties. So to discard, we need to spend 5 money. It's going to have 2 power tokens, so that's a timer. Move the Maul token farthest from the start 2 spaces forward. If this causes an effect to resolve on the track, resolve that effect 1 additional time. And that's going to cause some problems. So it gets 2 power tokens. Now we're going to get 4 turns in a row. So for our turn, casting phase, you may cast any of your prep spells in your open breaches, which we have 1. Open, just no spells on it. You must cast any of your prep spells in closed breaches. Place spells on top of your discard pile as they are cast. Main phase, we have options. We can play a gem or relic. We can gain a card, gain a charge, focus a breach, open a breach, prep spells, and other things. And then at the end of our turn, we're going to place all gems and relics that we have played this turn on top of your discard pile in any order you choose. And then draw cards from the top of the deck until we have 5 cards in hand. So prepping a spark for next turn. We can play any of these. So we create a bank of money we can use. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we may suffer 1 damage, which would help us move this thing around. So we'll see how this works. We'll take a damage, then move this, focus your closed breach with the lowest focus cost. So we'll move that. With our 4 money, we are going to purchase a Twisted Fang. So it deals 3 damage, which is important in this because when we deal 3 damage or more with 1 instance, we get to move a Maul token back a space. So I want to get as many of these as I can. Then if this card supply pile is empty, deal 1 additional damage. So we're done. So we can put these in our discard pile in any order. Then draw 5. And next turn. So we get to play a spell, dealing 1 damage. And I think the one I like the least is the one that goes straight to Gravehold. So we want to take on this one. So take it from 20 health to 19. We'll play these to bank 3 money. Takes 2 to open this. The 1 gets wasted. And then we will prep 2 spells. These get discarded. We go to draw. So we just flip our pile over, no shuffling, and then just take the top 5 cards, which is this. Next turn is us. Deal 1 damage, deal 1 damage. We can split that up, but we're just going to take it ear by ear. We'll then play this to gain a money and may suffer damage. So we're going to test this out and see if it gets us in trouble. And we can go draw a card or gain a charge or prep a spell. That's not going to help us at all. I think we're going to gain a charge. So once we get 5 charges, we get to do our ability. And charges typically just cost 2 money. So if we are not exhausted, gain 3 life. Otherwise, Gravehold gains 3 life. So we're going to prep a spell. We're going to have a total of 4 money. Get another Twisted Fang. End our turn. So 4 cards plus 1. So our next round, deal 3 damage. So it does matter where we place the 3 damage. We move that Maul token back 1 space. So I could put 3 damage here, but that's already at its starting space. So we will do 3 to the far side. to have it move back 1 space. Then prep 2 sparks. Got 3 money. Time to buy some better money cards. We'll go for this one. Ending our turn, drawing 5. Then our turn order deck will get shuffled. And next turn goes to us. So deal 1 damage, deal another damage, down to 15 on one of them. We'll gain a money and take a damage. Move this over to focus our closed breach with the lowest focus cost. Prep 2 spells. We'll have a total of 3 money. Buy another one of those gems. And discard and draw. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Next turn is us. So we are going to deal 3 damage to the first one. So we can knock this back 1 space, and then 1 damage to the second one. Prep a spell. We are going to have 5 money to play with. We are going to use, well, we're going to spend 5 money to get rid of one of these tokens. And discard. Oh, didn't get rid of a token and gets rid of the card. So we get to discard that without that ability triggering. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Next is us. So dealing 3 damage, we don't have to cast that. We have a total of 4 money, choosing not to take any more damage. We're going to spend 3 to focus this breach, which allows us to prep a spell there. Then we'll prep the other one over here. Discard 2 and 3 more. So we got 2 Nemesis turns coming up. So we're forced to use this one. Dealing 1 damage, dealing a 2nd damage. Got 4 money again. Going to use that to open this breach, which gives us +1 damage on cast. And I'm seeing the errors of my ways. I'm going to change that to put 2 damage up here, then deal 3 damage to get rid of this. Then prep those spells and end our turn. It's been a while since I played this. Almost forgot about those threats. I'm too worried about these ears. So 5 cards. And now 2 Nemesis turns. So first card. Bound. Any player gains 2 cursed shards from the curse deck and places them on top of their deck. Or move 1 Maul token 3 spaces forward, which will take them to a trigger space. So the cursed shards, gain a money, place this on top of your deck, or spend 2 to destroy this. So I guess we're going to take 2 of these because I don't want to move the bunny ears up. And they go on top of her deck. Then Nemesis goes again. And we've got a nice bug here. Corrupting Chitterer, 6 health. Persistent effect is move Maul tokens on 2 different tracks, 1 space forward. And we'll see if I can get these Nemesis cards separated. And the next turn goes to us. So this is going to deal 4 damage. And this deals 1, so 5 damage, taking this guy down to 1. And we are ending up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 money. I'm not going to hurt myself. We are actually... Now we're just going to buy some more Twisted Fangs. So we'll spend 4 here. And then 2 for a charge. And discarding in this order. So 3 cards and 2. So of course we got our 2 cursed ones. And not enough money to deal with them. Get to go again. All right. Going to gain a money and put this on top of her deck. Bank a money. And spend 2 to destroy this. So that gets removed from the game for now. Then prep some spells. Discard 2, 3, 4, and 5. We know what one's going to be. If I had a better memory, I'd know what the others were going to be too. All right, next turn is us. We are going to 2 damage. Then 1 damage. Prep the spell. 2 money to destroy that. And then 2 money for another charge. Next turn is the Nemesis. So unleash twice. It states move any mall token 2 spaces forward toward the end of the track. So 1, 2, and 1, 2. Then place this card in front of any player. For the rest of the game, when a Nemesis card specifies any player, the player with this card must resolve that effect if possible. All right, we've been marked for death. When the player with this card becomes exhausted, discard this card. All right, we've been marked. Duly noted. Nemesis goes again. Conjured Grapple, unleash twice. I guess we'll pick the other 2. Any player, hey, that's us, suffers 2 damage and discards 2 cards in hand. That player gains a Cursed Manacles from the Curse deck and places it into their hand. So down to 5 health. Discarding 2 cards. Now I've got some Cursed Manacles. So gain a charge, suffer damage, or discard 2 prep spells to destroy this. Okay. And we go. So we are going to gain a charge. Suffer damage down to 4. Move over here, gain a charge. We're going to spend all those. If you are not exhausted, gain 3 life. We do get to do that first, which we will. 4 damage. Take that down to 8, which moves us back 1. Then we do all that fun stuff and start playing our cards. 2 Twisted Fangs. And then 2 money for a charge. So a little bit out of order there. Should have played this first. But I got too excited to deal with my Cursed Manacles. So 3 cards and 2. So got a starter hand coming up and shuffling. So I feel like things are going good, but who knows what the Nemesis cards are going to do. So in case you weren't aware, this is my first play. I don't know what's going on with these Nemesis cards. So next turn is us. So 4 damage with our first shot. So take this one down to 4. And that moves this back. Then 3 damage here. Just moves it 1 space back. Let's see, 4 damage, discarding hands. I don't want to take the 4 damage, so we'll do that on this one. Then spark. 4 money. We'll get 2 charges. Next turn is us. So 2 damage. Prep 2 sparks. Then we have 4 money. We'll get 2 charges and spend to gain 3 health. End our turn. So we get these 4 plus 1 more. Nemesis. Seeking destruction. Immediately place the player number token of the player with the most open breaches on this. To discard, we need to spend 7 money. It's got 3 power on it. If the player whose player token is on this has the most open breaches, that player suffers 5 damage. Otherwise, unleash twice. Well, we know it's us, but normally you'd throw that out there. So next turn is us. 2 damage, which will take out the second mole. And when a mole is reduced to 0 life, discard that token and move another token back 2 spaces. Well, discarding all our cards doesn't help. Then 1 damage. Start picking on this guy. Then we have our cursed manacles. So we're going to gain a charge, take a damage. Prep our spells. And when we took our damage, we're going to focus our breach. Then we have 3 money to play with. So we'll get another one of these. Discarding, and 5. Our turn. So 4 damage. Knocking that ear back, and 3 damage to knock this one back. Prep a spell. 4 money. Get another Fang. 4 cards, plus 1. Then the Nemesis. So we take a power token off. Next card is a Chitin Crawler, 9 health. Reduced to 1, all damage dealt to this minion by spells that cost 3 or less. All right, persistent effect. Any player suffers 3 damage or we unleash. He needs to be dealt with. And shuffle. Always hard to shuffle just a couple cards. Here we go. So that's going first. 4 damage on this guy. And we are going to use that 4 money to get 2 charges. Got our shackles back. Nemesis goes. We lose a token. Any player suffers 3 damage or unleashes. So unleash is moving 1 token. Move any mole token 2 spaces forward. Or we take 3 damage. We'll take the 3 damage. And we get Suffocating Haze. See, reduced by 1 all damage dealt to minions from the Nemesis deck to a minimum of 1. All right, power 3, unleash twice, and Gravehold suffers 2 damage. All right. So that's going to make us hard to hurt the minions. Next turn is us. So we're reducing all damage to minions by 1 to a minimum of 1. And this reduced to 1 all damage dealt to this minion by spells that costs 3 or less. So, I mean, it still does 1 damage to it. But this one does 2, so we'll do that over here. Then prep another spark. Gain a charge and suffer a damage. Move over here to gain a charge and then spend all this to heal 3. All right, so we're going to gain 2 money. Then we're going to gain 2 more money, so we have 4 banked. Then if this is the second time you have played one of these this turn, you may destroy this. If you do, gain a card that costs 4 or less from any supply pile. So we'll take the last one of those. And get 1 more money, so we're up to 5, and choosing not to take a damage. So we will use 2 to get a charge, and the remaining 3 to get another one of these gems. That's so happy to see those 3 smiling faces. Next turn is us. Dealing 2 damage. That one's down to 8. Prepping 3 of those. Then 2 money for a charge. 2 and 3 more. And all right, we do get another turn. So it deals 3 damage. If this card supply pile is empty, which it is, deal 1 additional damage. So we're dealing 4 now. So we can take care of that. We're going to deal 4 damage with this, which will knock this back a spot. And 5 damage with this one, which we'll take off of that. Then prepping a spell. So then we've got 5 money. We're going to focus a breach. Then the Nemesis goes. So this is going to trigger. The player whose player token is on this mat has the most open breaches, which is us. That player suffers 5 damage. So we're down to 3 health. We'll move this over and focus this, which opens it. And we lose 1 on that one. And I think I might have messed up on that one earlier, so we'll add an extra health back on this. So I could have flipped those around to attack that direction differently, since I had a 4 and a 5 attack earlier. Then we get another card. So this guy's got 10 health. Carnivore, reduced to 0, all damage dealt to mauls. All right, so we have to take this guy out. Persistent, any player suffers 2 damage. And shuffle our turn order deck. Next turn is us. So 5 damage. Prepping spells. 3 money. We'll gain a charge. Next turn is us. So we're dealing 5 damage again. Made quick work of that guy. No, I didn't. Keep forgetting. So we really did 4 the first time, reducing the damage. Then 4 this time. Then 1 more and 1 more. Yep. That was correct. Be nice when this goes off so I can quit forgetting about it. So we'll prep a spark. We will gain a charge and suffer a damage. Down to 2. Move that down, which lets us gain a charge. So we'll gain 3 life. Up to 5. Then 4 money to get 2 charges. Draw 1 and 4 more. Our turn. All right, 2 damage. Three spells. 3 money, which equals a charge. Next turn is the Nemesis. So take a token off here, pop a card. So when a power token is removed from this, Gravehold suffers 2 damage. To discard, spend 7 money, and after 3 turns, it's going to unleash. And then Nemesis, so this goes off. So we're unleashing twice. So 1 and 2. And Gravehold takes 2 damage, down to 26. Then we're taking a token off of here, so Gravehold suffers 2 damage, down to 24. New card, Scaled Flesh. 3 power, it's going to unleash twice. And then set this card next to the growth mat. For the rest of the game, players must deal 4 damage instead of 3 to move them all token back. Next turn is us. So 4 damage. Takes care of Maul number 3. Move this one back 2 spaces. Then 5 damage. And 5 damage. Prep a spell. 5 money. We'll get 2 charges and heal 3. One, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And shuffle for the next round. Well, the way this is going, I know how to work him. We buy all these and keep healing herself. I'm sure something to mess that scheme up, though. All right, we're going. So 5 damage. We're going to go over on this side. Prepping 3 money for a charge. 3 cards here. Got her shackles back. plus another spark. We will go again. So 4 damage, 2 damage, and 1 damage, down to 4. And we don't have enough spells to finish this next turn. All right. So gain a charge or suffer or discard 2 prep spells. Guess we're going to gain a charge and take a damage. Then any ally draws a card, and when you're playing solo, we're our own ally. Drawing into a crystal. So 5 money. 2 charges. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There we go. Nemesis takes a turn. So we take off a token. Gravehold takes 2 damage. Lose a token here. Draw another card. 11 health on this guy. Wondering. Reduce to 1 all damage that is dealt to this by abilities and player cards. During any player's main phase, a player may spend any amount of money to deal an equal amount of damage to this. Persistent effect, Gravehold suffers 2 damage. All right, that's pretty interesting. Next turn is the Nemesis. All right, 2 damage down to 20. Going to unleash 3 times. Oh, I'm sorry. Just unleashing once. Power 3, unleash once. So I've only got 1 year left, so moving up 2. Then move a token off of this. And Gravehold takes 2 more, down to 18. And next card, Lunging Jaws. Move any Maul token 4 spaces forward. So space 1, Gravehold suffers 2 damage. Any player suffers 2 damage. Down to 16, down to 5. So that was 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it's our turn. Attack for 2 damage. Prep. 3 money. We'll gain a charge and heal. Discard. Drawing 5. And last turn is us. For 5, 10, and 14 damage, which takes down Experiment 153. So that was pretty interesting ability, or track what they're doing there. Just really helped with our abilities, and even the curse we got, the shackles, almost helped us, giving us a charge and suffer damage to gain a charge or bounce back and focus a breach. That went well. So for our conclusion, apparently the creature had 1 more swing left in him, and as he started to come at us and take us down, a dark breach cracks open and Zaxos descends from the sky and saves us. So he looks a little bit different than before. He spent some time in the void, but now we get to open deck 1D and add all those cards to our barracks, and then open envelope 1D and add Zaxos. And I think we are going to end up with a treasure here shortly. So deck 1D. Let's see what kind of goodies we have in store for us here. So we've got some Zaxos abilities. Outcast deal 4 more damage. Repeat this 2 more times. Clarifying Light. Glowing Insight. It's got a shield. Shattered Rewind. Imbued Aura. Galvanized Sapphire. So we've got some gems. So the gems are, we gain 2 money, And Zaxos gains a charge. When you gain this, if this is the second card you gain this turn, place this into your hand for 3 money. Or we get 3 money. Carnivorous Rooks. Gain an ether. You may destroy a card in hand to gain ether equal to its cost. Or destroy this, focus your closed breach with the lowest focus cost twice. Infused Ignition. On cast, deal 3 damage. If Zaxos Outcast has 4 or less charges, he gains 1. Then we've got Ria's Planner Pocket. Gain an ether. Gain an additional ether that can only be used to gain a relic. So Treasure Gem. So, yep, treasure level 1s. So that's what we're looking at here. And then, of course, Zaxos Outcast abilities were the first cards we were looking at. So possible treasures we can pick up on. Gain an ether, gain an additional ether that can only be used to gain a relic. Gain an ether, discard up to 3 spells in hand. Gain an ether for each spell discarded this way. Razor's Training Whistle. Gain an ether or gain a charge. And for our mage, I kind of like that one. The Lost Forge Spark. Just cast to deal 2 damage. I like that one too. And Mazur's Thesis. Deal 1 damage. Focus any player's 3 breach. Yeah, I think that's going to be the one I take. So it's just like a spark, but it's going to help us early on. So for our envelope, sure this is Zaxos. See if we got anything else that'll fly out of there. Nope. So he's going to have his own deck, discard pile, place to get charges, and his rolls. So you have invaded the void. It's a little backstory there. Then set up. He starts a game with 30 life. You lose the game if he has 0 life. Any effects that would refer to Gravehold instead refer to him. All standard AEONS rules that involve Gravehold applies to Zaxos Outcast instead. Shuffle all his Outcast ability cards face down to form the Outcast ability deck. Set that deck face down next to the Outcast mat. When a player would gain 1 or more charges, they may have Zaxos Outcast gain those charges instead. He cannot have more than 8 charges at a time. When he has 8 charges, completely resolve the effect that gains Zaxos Outcast the final charge. And then activates his ability. So first loses all his charges, then draw an ability card from his ability deck and resolve it. His ability deck is empty. Shuffle it and place it face down to form the ability deck. Effects that are triggered when a player resolves their ability are also triggered when Zaxos resolves his ability. And he is not considered a player for any other purposes. So, alright. So it normally takes us 5 to get our ability off. If we pay 6 more money, we'll get to do our ability and whatever one of his cards will do. So that's interesting. So setting up our supply for the next game. So the supply piles are the cards that we gain during the game. They're composed of 9 piles. Each pile contains several copies of the same card. We construct a supply of 9 cards using the players in our barracks. Then we banish all the player cards we don't include in the supply. And if it's, so basically it's not telling us we have to choose any of these new ones. And it's not saying we can't take them all. So let's see what we want to do here. So looking at this again and knowing what Zaxos does, I'm definitely bringing that in. So what do we want to replace with it? The other 4-cost gem. Next time you gain a card this turn, you may cast any player's prep spell. That's just not something I'd be using solo. So let that go by and bring in the Galvanized Sapphire. Then the Sunstone. When you gain this, if this is the second card you gain this turn, place it into your hand. But buying another card and spending another 5 money, that's late game, and I don't see that being a big thing. Then the Rooks. Gain an ether. Destroy a card in hand to gain ether equal to its cost. Or destroy it to focus a breach. I like this just for getting rid of our... I'll destroy these all day to get 0 money and cycle our deck better. And let's see. May destroy a card in hand. Yep. We'll replace it with that. And already know I'm not replacing the Twisted Fang. I'm already in love with that card. But if he has 4 or less charges, he gains a charge. I like that utility. So I like the 2 cost. Deal 2 damage. We may discard. So it's just, even though most times if I only have 2 money, I'm going to get a charge purchased. And that one potentially gains life. And that one deals 5 damage. I think we'll replace this one. Just give us another 4-cost spell. And out of the possible level 1 treasures, I am going with this one. So that will be it for this playthrough. And as always, I hope you enjoyed this video. So please click on the like button below and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.